Welcome back again, and today we will continue with ESL vocabulary. Mental grammar, the internalized grammar that a descriptive grammar attempts to model. C. Linguistic competence. Mental linguistic awareness, a speaker's conscious awareness about language and the use of language, as opposed to linguistic knowledge, which is largely unconscious. Metacognitive strategies, setting a study schedule. Some metacognitive learning strategies relate to managing the learning process. Some of these activities that would help to develop a metacognitive learning strategy are identifying resources for a project, deciding which of them are valuable, setting a study schedule, or finding a good place to study. Metalinguistic knowledge, the formal knowledge of a language that can be verbalized, usually in linguistic terminology such as past tense or demonstrative pronoun. By asking the students to convert the sentences to the past tense, you are increasing their metalinguistic knowledge. Metaphor, phrases that compare two unrelated subjects. Non-literal, suggestive meaning in which an expression that designates one thing is used implicitly to mean something else. Example, the night has 1,000 eyes, to mean one may be unknowingly observed at night. The world is a stage. Strong as an ox. Metathesis, phonological rules that reorder the sequences, or sounds, of phonemes. The phonological process that reorders segments, often by transposing two sequential sounds. Example, the pronunciation of ask/esk/ in some English dialects as eeks. Metonymy, when a specific term like aspirin becomes used generically, this process is called inductive antonomasia. Aspirin is often used generically for a painkiller, just as Hoover is used for any machine that cleans carpets. Mimetic, similar to imitating, acting out, or miming. Mimic, to repeat what someone else has said in the exact tone and pitch. Minimal attachment, late closure, two principles that may be used by the parser to deal with syntactic ambiguity. The principle that in comprehending language, listeners create the simplest structure consistent with the grammar. Example, the horse raced past the barn is interpreted as a complete sentence rather than a noun phrase containing a relative clause, as if it were the horse that raced past the barn. Minimal pair, two or more, words that are identical except for one phoneme that occurs in the same position in each word. Example, pain/pen/, bane/ben/, main/men/. Mnemonic strategy, a teaching strategy that is designed to help learners make associations, or create connections. Examples are sound, rhythm, body movement. Mnemonics, a memory system often involving visualization and/or acronyms to help students remember how to spell some challenging words. Because big elephants can always understand small elephants. Arithmetic, a rat in the house may eat the ice cream. Geography, General Eisenhower's oldest girl rode a pony home yesterday. Rhythm helps your two hips move. Modal verbs, may, might, can, could, should, etc. They cannot have an ed ending, be doubled in a sentence, have an infinitive form, or precede auxiliary verbs in questions. For instance, we would not say, Joe must go to the store. Modularity, modular, the organization of the brain and mind into distinct, independent, and autonomous parts that interact with each other. The monitor hypothesis states that the acquisition of language, not the learning, is what creates fluency in students' use of a second language. Grammar and linguistic structures are the editors during and after acquisition. Students are responsible for their own learning. Monomorphemic word, a word that consists of one morpheme. Monophthong, simple vowel, example, a, in, bad. C. Diphthong. Monosyllabic, one-syllable words. Example, boy, through. Morpheme, the smallest unit of linguistic meaning or function. Example, sheepdogs contains 3 morphemes, sheep, dog, and the function morpheme for plural, s. Morphological parser, a process, often a computer program which uses rules of word formation to decompose words into their component morphemes. Morphological rules, rules for combining morphemes to form stems and words. Morphology, study of structure of words in a language including inflection, derivation, and forms. The component of grammar that includes the rules of word formation. Morphophonemic orthography, a writing system, such as that for English, in which morphological knowledge is needed to read correctly. Example, in please/pleasant the EA represents I/A. Morphophonemic rules, rules that specify the pronunciation of morphemes. A morpheme may have more than one pronunciation determined by such rules. Example, the plural morpheme /z/ in English is regularly pronounced s, z, or z. Motherese, simple talk people use to talk to children, aka child-directed speech. Move, how the writer structures a text or part of a text. It is a meaningful unit represented in linguistic forms and related to the communicative purpose of the social activity in which members of the discourse community are engaged. Naming task, an experimental technique that measures the response time between seeing a printed word and saying that word aloud. Narrowing, a semantic change in which the meaning of a word changes in time to become less encompassing. Example, deer once meant animal. Nasal, nasalized, sound, speech sound produced with an open nasal passage, lowered velum, permitting air to pass through the nose as well as the mouth. Example, /m/. C. Oral sound. Nasal cavity, the passageways between the throat and the nose through which air passes during speech if the velum is open, lowered. C. Oral cavity. Natural class, a class of sounds characterized by a phonetic property or feature that pertains to all members of the set. Example, the class of stops. A natural class may be defined with a smaller feature set than that of any individual member of the class. Levels of writing. Precommunicative, the babbling stage of spelling. Children use letters for writing words, but the letters are strung together randomly. The letters in precommunicative spelling do not correspond to sounds. Examples, OPSPS equals eagle, RTAT equals 80. Semiphonetic, knowing that letters represent sounds. They perceive and represent reliable sounds with letters in a type of telegraphic writing. Spellings are often abbreviated representing initial and / or final sound. Examples, E equals eagle, A equals 80. Phonetic spell words like they sound. The speller perceives and represents all of the phonemes in a word, though spellings may be unconventional. Examples, EGL equals eagle, ATE equals 80. Transitional, think about how words appear visually. A visual memory of spelling patterns is apparent. Spellings exhibit conventions of English orthography like vowels in every syllable, e-marker and vowel digraph patterns, correctly spelled inflectional endings, and frequent English letter sequences. Examples, eagle equals eagle, EGHTE equals 80. Conventional develop over years of word study and writing. Correct spelling can be categorized by instruction levels. For example, correct spelling for a corpus, words that can be spelled by the average 4th grader would be 4th grade level correct spelling. Place the word in this category if it is listed correctly. The natural order hypothesis deals with grammatical issues. This hypothesis states that morphemes are required in a predictable fashion and that the morpheme, ing, is the first naturally acquired. Naturalistic contexts and classroom settings, SLA researchers look at acquisition of a second language in two different ways. They look at acquisition in naturalistic contexts, where learners pick up the language informally through interacting in the language. They also look at acquisition in a classroom setting. Negative polarity item, NPI, an expression that is grammatical in the presence of negation, but ungrammatical in simple affirmative sentences. Example, any in James does not have any money but James has any money. Negative transfer, the process of incorrectly applying structures from one language to another. A speaker would say, nothing paper, to mean no paper. Neologism, a new word to a language that has not been accepted in common usage. Neurolinguistics, the branch of linguistics concerned with the brain mechanisms that underlie the acquisition and use of human language, the study of the neurobiology of language. Neutralization, phonological processes or rules that obliterate the contrast between two phonemes in certain environments. Example, in some dialects of English /t/ and /d/ are both pronounced as voiced flaps between vowels, as in writer and rider, thus neutralizing the voicing distinction so that the two words sound alike. Node, a labeled branch point in a phrase structure tree, part of the graphical depiction of a transition network represented as a circle, pairs of which are connected by arcs. See arc, Phrase structure tree, transition network. Non-continuant, a sound in which air is blocked momentarily in the oral cavity as it passes through the vocal tract. C stops, affricate. Passes through the vocal tract. C stops, affricate. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you again.